Hello, and welcome to the Art of Living Well podcast. I'm Stephanie May Potter, and I'm here with my co-host, Marnie Dotches-Marmette.
We created the Art of Living Well podcast to empower you to live your happiest, healthiest, and most authentic life. Each week, we will bring you inspiring and motivating conversations covering health and wellness topics, including fitness, mindset, food, travel, product reviews, and strategies from a variety of experts, including our own bank of knowledge.
We are excited to educate, motivate, and inspire you to change the way you perceive health and discover your art of living well. Get ready to feel inspired.
Hey Stephanie, can you believe that the average mass-produced bottle of wine can contain up to 16 grams of added sugar?
I know, that's crazy. That's more than a glazed donut.
Whew, which kind of grosses me out. But anyway, we're so excited because we finally found clean crafted wine that we enjoy, that tastes good, and we don't feel like crap the next day.
I am loving these Scout and Cellar wines. We've tried several of the different types, and all of them taste good, like Marnie said. And we love the fact that there's no added sugar. They're free of chemicals and pesticides. They're grown with organic grapes and sustainable farming practices. And they have very low sulfites, which are one of the things that can often cause the headaches the next day.
And, you know, it's summertime, it's patio season. It's so nice to just get outside. If you enjoy having a glass of wine, we are super excited to be part of Scout and Cellar, and we do have our online shop.
So you just head on over to www.scoutandcellar, that's SCOUTANDCELLAR.com/theartoflivingwell. You can have clean crafted wine delivered to your door.
Hello, and welcome to episode number 48 of the Art of Living Well podcast. Before we dive into today's conversation, we have a few important updates we want to share. The first is that we are kicking off our inaugural book club. And it's something Marnie and I have talked about for a while. We thought the fall was the perfect time to do this. And it was inspired by a recent guest we had, an amazing and super intriguing conversation with Andrew Kapp. And we talk all about the law of attraction. And we're going to read his book. It's the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read. And we're going to have a discussion on Thursday, November 12th at 11:30 that will take place via Zoom. We have links for everything in the show notes. You can purchase the book or you can download it on Audible. And we're really excited. It's a really inspiring conversation that I think everyone kind of needs right now at the end of 2020 and thinking about your goals for 2021. So we're really excited for that book and the discussion that will follow. And then the next is a new program that we just developed. We've been listening to you guys and really trying to recognize what we think everyone needs right now as we approach the holiday season. So we've created a 30-day Thrive During the Holiday Season group program. It's all about staying festive, fun, and feeling fabulous during this time of year. And I know this holiday season is going to look a little different than those in the past. It will kick off on November 16th and run until December 13th. And it's going to be a community of like-minded people. We're going to, on a weekly basis, we'll be sending you a recipe book, guided meditations. We're going to record a live yoga class. We'll have weekly live sessions that you will drive based on topics that you want to hear about to keep you motivated and inspired to stay the course during the holiday season and really continue on with a lot of the new habits that you've created over the last several months. And really so much more. So come join us. We would love to have you. Again, that's November 16th to the 13th. Check out links in the show notes. You can sign up for both of those programs today. And finally, we would love for each of you to head on over to Apple Podcast to rate and review this podcast. Doing so helps ensure that other people are finding the Art of Living Well podcast so that we can share our inspiring and motivating conversations and all of our guests with more people. And if you know of anyone who would benefit from the information or would find an episode helpful, please forward that to them. We'd also love for you to tag us, post us in your stories, again, so that more people can hear about the podcast and benefit from the information that we're sharing. And with that, let's dive right into our conversation today. We are thrilled to bring you today's guest, Tammy Mann, who is the founder, CEO of a food brand producing sustainable, nutritional, and very tasty foods fueled by crickets. Yes, crickets. Tammy is a mom, former creative director, triathlete, and now a full-fledged cricketeer foodie who's on a mission to make craveable, sustainable, nutritional foods fueled by crickets. Tammy was struggling with gut health and wasn't able to find a protein solution to sustain her through long workouts. And that's when Tammy stumbled upon cricket protein powder. Like most Americans, the idea of eating bugs totally grossed her out, but she was willing to give it a try. What did she have to lose? There was a noticeable improvement in all aspects of her dietary needs once she started incorporating the cricket protein into her life. She had better gut health, more energy, and she felt fueled to go significantly longer in her workouts. The downside was that the flavor wasn't great. She literally was, kind of plugging her nose to chug down her smoothies in the morning. And she sampled every brand out there available without much success. She was sharing this with friends and family, but honestly, the people that she was sharing it with didn't love the products. And that's when the light bulb went off, and Tammy saw a huge opportunity to create a quality, craveable, and nutritional cricket-fueled food. So fast forward, today she's the founder of Harmony Cricket Farm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and her mission is to make a positive impact on our Earth by changing Americans' perception of eating insects. The journey begins with darn good cookies and ends with a happier, healthier planet and you. During the conversation, you'll learn how crickets are a nutritional packed superfood that are high in protein, iron, calcium, B12, and even omega-3s. But this episode goes beyond just talking about crickets and food. Tammy shares her tips and motivation to follow your North Star and her own journey from the ad world to being an entrepreneur. As Tammy says in this episode, if your dream doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. And with that, let's dive right into our conversation with Tammy Mann. Okay. Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Art of Living Well podcast today. Marnie and I were introduced to you over the summer by someone that we both know. And we're going to be honest, at first we were a little skeptical about eating crickets and how they could possibly taste good in cookies. But after our initial conversation with you and ultimately tasting your super delicious cookies, we knew you had to come on our show to share your innovative new business and enlighten our listeners about the amazing health and environmental benefits of eating crickets. I mean, who knew? We're so excited to dive in and talk all about crickets today. So, every entrepreneur has a story. So let's start out by sharing a little bit about your background and your journey and how you came to be La Cricket Queen.
Thank you for having me on your show. I'm flattered. The journey, well, it started a couple years ago. So historically, for 26 years, I was a designer and creative director and mom. That was kind of my title. And throughout the years, I was a marathon runner or yoga, did yoga. I was always into fitness. And then I started getting to triathlon. And in the triathlon world, when you're training with everybody, people start talking about what they're eating. And I have had a lot of health issues that they come to light when you really ask your body to do things for you. When I started doing marathons, for example, I was carbo loading and going, wait a minute, why are my legs not working the next day? Well, turns out I'm gluten intolerant. So, I learned. I would have never known. And then with the triathlon world, I started getting together. They work out early in the morning because you need a few hours and then you have to get to work. So we're all working out, and I was always having gut issues. So I was struggling with trying to figure out what I could eat before my workout so that I didn't have to find a porta potty or so I wasn't hungry half hour into the workout. And so, everybody is telling you what their thing is, so you name it, I've tried it. It was the whey proteins, the vegan proteins, the Pro. I bought every protein powder and I kept trying them. And it was getting to the point where it was just getting hard. I started to just go hungry because eating before working out wasn't working, but you can't do that because you can't perform. And then somebody just kind of said, well, I've heard people are using cricket protein in some places. I'm like, yeah, like the bug, cricket. And they said, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's not like I ran to the store and bought it, nor could I. But I gave it thought because I didn't really have anything else to do. And I Googled cricket protein and I started reading about it. And, you know, from what I read, I'm like, wow, this sounds pretty amazing, kind of scary. I'm going to eat a bug. But I couldn't find anybody in the US at the time, but I ordered something from the UK. And it arrived and I was so nervous and I put it in my smoothie and made my smoothie really dark. And I'm like, oh my gosh, oh boy, here goes. And I plugged my nose and drank it down. I didn't like it. I could taste a gamey, weird taste. And but it was expensive. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to waste this. I'm going to give it a try. And I did it every day until it was gone. And I'm so glad I did because I started noticing huge changes. My gut wasn't as swollen. It was like there's this bloatedness to me that started to go away. I felt strong. I felt leaner. I was noticing improvements in my body. And that was just after a month. And that was kind of the start. And then I went to work every day and just kept thinking, wow, this is really cool stuff.
That's so fascinating that, I mean, and the fact that you stuck with it, like, you know, you're telling us that you were plugging your nose and drinking it down, and then you stuck with it. Like me, if I'm plugging my nose and drinking something, I'm not sticking with it usually. So that's pretty impressive.
You know, maybe it could have been like that, but trying all the other things and failing to see a difference. I needed something.
Well, and eating bugs really seems strange and unappetizing for so many Americans, right? But I know this isn't the case outside of the US. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of eating bugs?
Right. So eating bugs, first of all, the first thing I started to do when I started to eat bugs is think there have to be better tasting bugs. This has to be better.
This conversation.
And so I know it's like I feel like we're kids in the playground and you're trying to double dog and eat a bug, but that's how it felt. But I started looking online again and I started ordering other cricket, and I'm glad I did that because the truth is they're not all the same. They really are not. They taste different, and I suppose if you think about it, it has to do with what are they fed, what kind of cricket are you eating, how are they processed. But eating bugs is another word you just said. It's actually entomophagy. And I may even be saying that word wrong, but I wrote it. You can even see it. I was about to go to spring break with my kids and I got a new journal and I wrote the word entomophagy on the cover because I wanted to remember the word and remember eating bugs. And then I started researching, just like you said, where did this all begin? And over 2 billion people on the planet are eating bugs. And like in Paris, there's 5-star restaurants that are beautifully serving insects, not just crickets. There's mealworms. There's all these other kinds of bugs. I talked with a professor at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, a bit because she's doing a really great study on gut health and crickets and insects. And she's been in Africa and other places learning about bugs and how they're eating bugs. And she was saying, she said, first of all, and she's just like us, she's from here, she said, just so you know too, when they're fresh, they're even better. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure I'm ready to go there. You can call me the cricket queen. You can tell me I eat bugs, but I'm not ready to go there. But she said that they're eating bugs everywhere in all kinds of different ways. And I've seen it online in my research. I think one step at a time. I'm not gonna sit there with a bunch of hopping little bugs and ask anybody to eat it because, quite frankly, I'm not ready for that. So
what's the most common way people are eating crickets?
I think the most common way is to have them as a powder. A lot of people are using them. A lot of companies are making bars, protein bars. For example, I tried, there's a brand company called XO in Texas, and they have protein bars and energy bars. There's a few other companies making bars as well. So when I started this, I started making bars because I didn't quite like the flavor of their bars. So I thought, well, how can I make them better? But then I realized that's a lot of work for one girl in her kitchen to realistically, get out there and make a bar. It's a thing I'd like to do someday, but certainly not on my agenda right now. There's plenty of companies doing it if you're interested. Another one is in smoothies. That's a huge one. But the one thing I'm trying to do is experiment within the kitchen. And I actually don't want to eat sweet things all the time. I like savory. Breakfast, I prefer eggs. I like a warm bowl of oatmeal over a cold smoothie. I just have the smoothie for the convenience, but if I get to really play. So I spend a couple hours every day in the kitchen, and I'm turning into I don't know what you would call me, a food hack or a recipe hack, but I'm starting to look for research people on the internet or in social media who are making gluten-free, even vegan and vegetarian foods. That seem to have recipes that I think seem pretty solid. And I'm trying to now take that recipe and modify it. Or if they're not gluten-free, I'm turning it into gluten-free, and I'm dialing in cricket. And it's been really fun. My family loves everything I've made. So
and you have guinea pigs,
but they're honest, and they have different opinions. And how teenagers are, there's one, there's 50, because they bring all their friends over.
And how old are your kids?
16 and 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're gonna be honest with you.
Oh, they are.
They're
brutally honest, probably.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially when they're yours. Their friends may be a little more forgiving, but they're brutal. And my son, he was on the Food Network. He's a foodie. When he was 12 or 13, times of flying here, he's a baker, but he just became that on his own, and so cool. Ended up on so he isn't just a kid with an opinion. He's a kid with an opinion, and he will eat all my things and give me great insight. He was along with me in the kitchen a lot of the journey and making the cookies. He was honest, like, this isn't sweet enough, or I think this seems kind of dry, just things like that. And now I'm experimenting with granolas. I'm about to come up with a couple great granolas. And at first I had whole roasted crickets in there. And he's like, you know what, Mom, I love you. Don't take this the wrong way, but I don't want to see the cricket. And I'm like, you know what? Noted. I bet you're not unlike most people. So thank you. And so now I grind the cricket so you can't really see it. And it, thanks to my son, I'm always kind of tweaking. Where my daughter, I'll eat anything. I'll eat it.
I'm with your son. I like the idea of not seeing it.
Not seeing it. Exactly. So I know you saw amazing results when you started taking the cricket protein powder, and you talked about being stronger and less bloating. And, but how can crickets really improve your gut health and your energy and your athletic performance? Like specifically with the gut, because I think that's a really hot topic right now, and everyone's focused on their immunity.
Right. So at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm glad you asked that, because we can all sit and Google, and read statistics. And I was reading all these statistics, and it's hard to go, where did this information come from? But I do know, there was basic things that are common knowledge, like it's complete protein. It's got all your amino acids, high in fiber. Well, it turns out it's high in a fiber called chitin fiber, CHITIN, which is it's a fiber that helps your body just break down your foods and the proteins. And I was like, I don't understand this. You're talking to I'm just a layperson here. What does this all mean? And who's done any research on this subject that I can talk to? And Valerie Stahl, she's a professor at a scientist at the University of Madison, Wisconsin, did a great study on gut health. And she used test subjects, and she was just really finding benefits of the cricket, of insect, but of cricket protein. So much so that she just got a grant to do another huge study, which I would love to supply her with as many cricket as I can, because she was asking me just kind of like, what are some recipes that I can be feeding my subjects? Because I want to make sure they get X amount of protein in them a day, so we can really start measuring the results. But she was finding that people were showing benefits in their gut health. So now it's further in study.
Okay. Well, that's so cool. And I know that it also contains more calcium than a glass of milk. And, so many people think you have to drink milk and that kids have to drink milk.
Right.
So how much of the powder do you recommend eating to like really get the results? Like, can you just eat one cookie a day and, have improved gut health? Or
I always tell people when they're at the farmers markets, I'm like, it's a cookie. I've done everything I can to make this as healthy of a cookie as I can. I'm working with Minnesota farmers, organic farmers. Every ingredient is in here, I believe in. But it's still a cookie. There is sugar in here. I'm not going to lie, because I tried to make it that healthy. It didn't taste good. Yeah. But if you really want to see those benefits that I talked about, I recommend a quarter scoop a day. And of course, anything more than that is beneficial. So I find the best way to get that is in a smoothie. I'm also experimenting with doing some overnight oats. I've been making overnight oats, and then I soak my oats in like a coconut milk, and I'll put in my protein powder, stir it up. And then in the morning, I just add some honey and fruit, and it's a great way to get it in too. You ask about recipes. Oh, but anyway, I'm going off tangent here.
No, so that's fine.
A quarter scoop a day.
A quarter scoop, is that a quarter of a cup? It's a quarter of a cup.
Quarter cup has 24 grams of protein.
Wow. And
it's a complete protein. And then I add, what does that mean? Well, in a complete protein, you have your amino acids but also your body can break it down better than it can break down the proteins found in most meats. Your body kind of gets meat and has to work harder. So I'm curious to see what kind of studies have been done on. That must have something to do with why we can, perform better.
Well, I'm wondering, have you tried first of all, I have two questions. How does it taste in your smoothie? Number one. And number two, have you tried sprinkling it on like a salad, or like if you just want to get it in, your quarter scoop in? Right. Have you tried sprinkling it on other foods, pasta, whatever, or does it have like a strong taste?
So in my smoothie, my first experience I told you about, I tasted it and didn't like it. So it's really important to know that if you've tried cricket and you didn't like it, maybe you should try Harmony Cricket Farm Cricket.
Right, that's right.
And there are other really great farmers too, locally, that are doing a really good job. I think you just have to be mindful and research your cricket powders and know that they're not all created equal. In my smoothie, I barely taste it. It's got a little bit grainier texture. So that's the only thing people have commented on. It's got a lightly nutty flavor. So I think that's about it. It's pretty mild. It's a lightly mild nutty flavor. If you're having something more than that, that means you've got a bad cricket powder.
Okay.
And then to your question about adding it to other foods, I do. In fact, I've been adding it to if I'm making chili, I just dump some in there. If I'm making a sandwich, like I did a roll up at these farmers markets, I'm meeting all these great farmers, and we all at the end of the market swap, I'll give you some of this for some of that. And somebody was doing these microgreens. And so I put microgreens and I did a little wrap, and then I sprinkled roasted crickets in there, just for, experimenting. I also sprinkle roasted crickets on top of my salad as like a little crouton. But I do add the powders and the roasteds, depending on what I'm making. The roasteds are in my granola.
Can you explain the difference between the roasted and the powder?
Do they look like crickets?
They do. So I grind them in a processor. I grind them until they're just not really identifiable, but they still give me the texture, because that's kind of why I'm using them. I want the texture and the nutrition, But I don't want to, because when I'm, we're all here at home, right? So my son is downstairs in school right now. And when I make lunch, I make it for both of us. And so we have ground cricket.
Okay.
My daughter, on the other hand, eats another thing I offer at home and at the farmers markets is I sell sea salt vinegar crickets, and I sell a flamin' hot buffalo cricket. So, buffalo stuff. And my daughter loves those, and they're whole crickets roasted.
So you're seeing like a bug. You're holding a bug.
You are, except for a cricket has been roasted, and then they're washed 4 times. And all of the things like the little tentacles and all that, you're not seeing that. They're dried up little clumps, really.
Okay.
And if you stare at it, though, you will see a bug. So that's for the braver person. That's my daughter. And she just loves anything flaming hot. So I don't know what that's about.
I kind of want to bring those to this party I'm going to as a little gift. Actually, I think it'd be a fun little hostess gift.
Yeah, well, my daughter was my test for that because she likes the flaming hot Cheetos. And I'm like, oh, girl, please don't eat those things. I don't even know what all of this is inside of your Cheeto. And so when I made my first round of flaming hot crickets, it was for her because I really didn't want her eating the Cheetos. But, she's 18. You get her in a car. She goes out with her friends. She'll buy the Cheetos. I don't buy them. Anyway, she ate my first round and she's like, Mom, these are not hot enough. You can't call these flaming hot. These are weak. So they've gotten to be flaming hot to the point where when I make them, I'm like, I have a mask on and I still get like teary-eyed.
Okay, I'm going to order some of those. I know we talked about I need to order more cookies because we've gone through them. I'm going to venture out and buy some of these roasted crickets and see what I can do with them. And so you could just blend them up in a little blender. And then I'd put them on top of a salad. I'm always looking for a little crunch and a little extra protein. I eat a lot of, vegan or vegetarian based meals. So.
Right. Well, that's where the cricket comes in really great is a lot of the vegan and vegetarians. I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian, so I can only speak for what I've witnessed and heard. But it's a very personal thing. And from what I'm hearing, people go there for different reasons. Some people are because they don't like the way animals are treated. And, everyone has a different reason. So everyone has a different place in their mind of how they're going to accept a cricket. But many vegetarians are kind of open to eating crickets. I don't know if, the way their end of life experiences maybe helps, they're just put into a deep freeze, which is like a hibernation. So they're not hurt or scared. I always think about those things, but,
so that I feel like that kind of leads us into our next question for you, actually.
Yeah.
So one of the most fascinating things we learned about the crickets is not only that they have these tremendous health benefits, but also the environmental impact as well, and especially compared to eating animal protein.
Right.
And can you share a little bit about this with us?
Yeah. Oh, gosh. So, when I started the journey, when I first tried the cricket, and was grossed out, I went right to the internet and started researching. And one thing I read that stopped me and made me think, why are we not changing how we eat was a fact that it said if a family of 4 people swapped out 1 meal a week from beef protein to insect protein, they would save approximately 650,000 liters of water a year. And I thought, oh, and then you just keep reading, and there are currently little over 7 billion people on our planet. But by 2050, there's going to be over 9 billion people on our planet. We will not have the resources to keep eating the way we are. And, I might not be here, or maybe I will in 2050, maybe I will. But my children will be, and my grandchildren will be. And just trying to be more responsible about the choices I make. They produce 80% less methane than a cow. They use significantly, less water, grain, space, because, crickets actually want to be on top of each other, all packed up in a little environment. So you don't have these roaming fields. I've read many studies that say that a third of our planet is occupied with livestock. I haven't talked to anybody in person who's validated that, yet. So I'm not sure that I'm going to stand behind it, but it sounds like an awful lot of land that people are going to need to live on. And when people start living in land, where are the animals going to be raised? So I think going back to the concept of we need alternatives, I think crickets will provide a great alternative. And just starting to change the way people think about eating the cricket now is going to help kind of pave that, because we're all in the same place. We're all raised with the same mindset. I was plugging my nose, for God's sakes. So trying to help people get past that now so that we can start making a positive impact on the planet will be huge.
I love that. And why do you think it is then that it's crickets or other insects are seen as a delicacy abroad?
Right.
Why in America do we have that perception or stigma around eating crickets?
Well, I think it's not just about eating crickets. I think anything different takes a while to catch on to, in every part of our life, in how we dress, in fashion, and everything. If someone would have showed up, with a mohawk in 1970, people would have been like, "What are you doing?" And then along comes the 80s. And with food, you take a cricket and you think that's disgusting, but they're called a land shrimp. They call them a land shrimp because they are a crustacean. I try to point that out to everybody. It's a crustacean. So that means if you're allergic to crustaceans, for example, you could very well be allergic to a shrimp, or a cricket. And I tell people this because what I don't want is anybody to ever think it'd be funny to give a friend a cricket cookie, as a joke, and their friend not know there's a cricket in there, and then they have an allergic reaction. That'd be horrible, horrible, horrible. So going back to that, though, people 50 years ago used to think lobster was disgusting. They wouldn't eat it. They were trying to feed them to inmates in prisons, and inmates were like not eating it. And then 20 years ago, Americans were thinking that raw fish was gross. And now we're paying premium prices to go to these bougie little sushi restaurants. I think the best way to incorporate the sushi was they rolled it in rice. And now, people are eating it. Well, I think the cricket, we're rolling it into a smoothie. We're trying to learn how to roll it into recipes. I would love to work with some, really good chefs and, who really know a lot about food, and start to play with how can we put more cricket into our foods, because I think there's going to be something that's going to be game changing. I look at the fact that the gluten-free community is growing. Many of us are gluten-free, and I'm paying a lot of money to get a gluten-free tortilla chip or a gluten-free pasta. How can we start dialing cricket into these things so we're also getting more nutrients?
That would be amazing if you put cricket powder or whatever you want to call it into a tortilla.
Into a chip, I know.
That would be so cool.
So if anybody out there is listening and they make, like a black bean tortilla chip, let's talk.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be the thing, is it's like the California roll was for sushi. I think really meeting people where they're at. Their mindset isn't, hey, it's good to eat a bug, because that's not how we've been raised. And
you're meeting them with the cookie. You're meeting them where they're at with the cookie, which I love.
Yeah, meeting them with a cookie, but now I'm trying to step back and look at people who really aren't going to eat a cookie and that's where recipe sharing is a good thing. And I'm working on, I'll be posting. My goal is one recipe a week.
I think that the environmental impact is huge.
Yeah.
And especially there are obviously tons of people that care about the environment, including myself and Stephanie. And I think our kids' generation is even more passionate about it.
You're right.
And getting them on board with this at a younger age, I think is huge.
I'm so impressed by our children. Sometimes, as a parent, you look at them and go, oh my God, how is the world going to survive? Because all you guys do is look at your screen. But the truth is, they are so intelligent and they really care. And you asked me about, sharing them with my children and them and their friends. that has been my biggest group of followers. They are very excited about it, and they care about our planet more than their health. They love the cricket for the planet.
Yes.
And I think as a mom, I'm more for their health.
Yeah. Well, right.
We have different reasons, but so I'm very inspired by them and excited. That's why that tortilla chip would be great too.
Oh, absolutely. So can you talk a little bit? So it's Harmony Cricket Farm.
Right.
So they're the ones that are raising the crickets. Can you talk a little bit about like your involvement with all this? So with the crickets and the farm and maybe how they're raised, people that are concerned about that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Good question. So that is exactly where I'm at right now. Is when I started this whole thing, I started with a dream. Like, what is my North Star? And that's where I started. And my North Star was to have a place that would raise and harvest crickets, and a place where people could come and learn about why, and they could enjoy eating crickets in a way that wasn't creepy and scary, but actually really tasty. I started with the end goal in mind. And then I named it because I come from branding. I couldn't stop myself. So what am I going to name it? And I looked up a lot of things about crickets. A group of crickets is called an orchestra. So if you play their song.
That's really cute.
Everything about them is kind of amazing.
Yeah. They're growing on me by the minute here.
Yeah,
me
they
too.
grow on me. Heck, I quit my whole career. But so then I thought, so they're also in harmony with our planet, and they're in harmony with our body and with nature and everything. And harmony is like the tune that they sing. So that's how Harmony came to be. And then I love that. And then Cricket Farm is my beacon. That's my North Star. I don't have a cricket farm yet. It takes a lot of work to raise and harvest crickets. It takes a lot of money to do it at the capacity that I need to do it. I need to be raising about 3 tons a month, 3 to 3.5 tons a month, which is 7,000 pounds of cricket.
Wow.
That's my goal. Wow. And in order to do that, I'm going to need funding. In order to get funding, I need to earn it. In order to earn it, I need to have a strong purpose and mission and show that people really are on board to eat a cricket. And then by doing that, I'm introducing it as a product. So I just say I'm a woman-owned business. My mission is to change Americans' perception of eating insects. I'm doing it by providing tasty food options, taking away I said more yuck, less yuck, more yum. But the other thing, so I told you I experimented and I tried crickets from all over the place. I tried them from Canada, UK, United States, Montana. There's a lot of great cricket farmers, and some had a fantastic product that tasted great, but they couldn't supply the demand that I needed. So trying to find good and supply, I found from Bali. The problem I have with that is the sustainable story. That means my little tiny cricket has to jump on an airplane, and there's really nothing I would rather not see than that. So
if you need someone to go get them for you, I'd be
happy. I'll go too.
I actually was supposed to go in March because I wanted to go spend a month in
that's my dream
world. Yeah, well, maybe you should come with me. But I wanted to go because I wanted to get my hands dirty. I wanted to get involved and raise some crickets and see how this goes for a month. But obviously the world shut down. So the people that I buy my cricket from, they raise them in a facility that's I have to get all the documentation. When you make food, you need to show where your food comes from. It has to go through testing. It has to be safe. And the United States definitely has rules for that. These guys are legit. They raise them in a clean environment. They feed them organic grains. It takes 7 weeks to raise from beginning to end. And they reproduce very, very fast. So then they take them and they freeze them, and then they dry them, and then they wash them 4 times, and then they dry them and grind them down and send them to me. So I ordered a lot of them so that I wouldn't have to pay or, spend too much air gas. But the goal, I'd like to open a farm in an area of opportunity here in Minneapolis. So North Minneapolis, in an old warehouse, restore it. But what I'm talking to now is I'm talking to friends of mine who are engineers and trying to learn. I also went and visited Will Steger. Are you guys familiar with Will Steger?
I'm not.
Everybody should Google Will, because he's
Okay.
Antarctic. He's done some pretty amazing things, and his whole mission is our planet, saving it. He's I went and spent some time with him up in Ely and talked to him about this whole idea. And even he, who's this global change, wants to save the environment, was kind of grossed out by eating a bug. And I brought him cookies, and I talked about land shrimp. And he said, when you say land shrimp, I'm willing to eat it. And he ate it. And he's like, okay, you're onto something here. And I like what you're saying. And I like what you're doing. So then I said, yeah, but to raise them in Minnesota, we have to heat it. They like warm weather. Well, how do we do that in a way that's requiring less? And these conversations are kind of where my head is now. I'm talking with engineers, with really smart people, to try to figure out the best way to raise a cricket in a cold climate. Because I think that in order to make it sustainable, it should be here. And also it should be done, though, mindful. Like, how do we keep the place warm? How are we doing this in a way that, and then how can we bring work to people in need? And I think giving them a job, doing something that matters, and could be pretty cool. And there's a lot of people who could really use a job. So
Absolutely.
That's such a great vision, Tammy. And I think there's a lot of innovation here in the food space and the health space.
Oh, and it's so fun to meet all these new people. There are so many smart people with passions for various things, whether it's the organics, the farmers I've met, my oats and my flaxseed, for example. I go visit their farms, and thank goodness their farms are by my daughter's college. She goes to PSU. But they sit there and they show me what they're doing, and they're not taking the easy route. To raise a flaxseed organically is not easy. That little bugs want to get in there. So I'm just, every day I'm so inspired by what people are doing to try to make the world a better place. That I'm so happy that I get to be a part of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you're right there with them. You're doing great things yourself.
I'm so inspired by what you're doing right now.
Well, thank you. I'm learning. I'm learning every day. And I think the more conversations you have and the more you share your North Star, the more people you're going to find that go, who are the right people. The right people will not go, ew, but they're going to go, oh my gosh, I know somebody. And I think, so as much as I get a little shy, I'm just working on putting it out there. Yep, I promote eating bugs. Do you know anybody who wants to play?
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
We love leaving our listeners with some practical tips that they can implement immediately into your life, whether it be career change, starting a new business, getting outside your comfort zone. Can you share like a strategy or some tips for people?
Which part? Gosh, I think that's a hard one, because I have so many great friends who have successful careers who are unhappy, or they just feel like they're just doing the same thing all the time, but they don't feel excited about it anymore. And when I talk to them now, you meet your friends, you walk around the lake, and they're like, gosh, Tammy, you're so excited and you're so alive. And not to say I didn't love my career, because I did, and I'm very grateful for what I did. But at some point after that many years, it started to feel like, So I think listening to your heart and taking a risk and trying new things is a great thing. Surrounding yourself with people who believe in you is so important, because it's scary. And even more so, doing something that actually is, as Indy Dogood would say, you're being a do-gooder. How could you go wrong? So you only get to live once. So trying to make your life the best it can be every single day is a great thing. And anything worth having is worth working for. I've never worked so hard in my whole life.
But it's like fun, right? It doesn't feel, even though you're working hard, you're loving it so much that it's fun.
It is fun. I think sometimes it can be, the fun parts of, I have to do every part. So fun, I have to sit with someone and talk finance. You're talking to a girl who doesn't even like to balance her checkbook. And I am learning, about P&L statements and how to do way more than just balance my checkbook. I don't need to be the master of it, but I certainly need to know what it is, and I need to respect it. And that part isn't fun, but it's kind of like a hard workout isn't always fun. But when you're done, you're like, oh my God, that was the best. I can't wait to do that again tomorrow.
Well, and you should be so proud of yourself for like stepping into that area that you don't like and you are uncomfortable with, because you're stretching yourself in a new way.
Right.
I think that's something that we both try and do often.
Yeah.
And it's not always fun.
Right. No, it's not. But it's you feel alive, and that's a really good thing. And it's a really great feeling to know that you're doing something. You guys are doing something to help people every day just by sharing awesome stories that motivate and inspire us. And hopefully I'll do something good by if I could get 1% of the population to eat crickets, I'd be thrilled.
That would be amazing.
By the time my days here are done, if that's where I'm at, I will be so freaking happy.
So speaking to that 1%, where can people find you on social media, website? How can they order your cookies, start baking?
So I started as the Cricket Queen. I started as her because I wanted to learn. And I started by promoting all the crickets I could find, all the brands I could find, all the products, and then by experimenting and sharing stories. I am now the Cricket Queen found a home. I'm at Harmony Cricket Farm. That's my dream. Is there a real farm yet? No, not yet, but there will be. But if you go to harmonycricket.farm, that's our website. Harmony Cricket Farm is also on Instagram and Facebook. I have a blog that was the Cricket Queen. She's moving on. All my blog information is moving to Harmony Cricket Farm. Literally packing my bags right now and moving in.
Well, I love that you don't have the farm right now, but you're already thinking that that's what you're going to you will have this farm, Tammy. We have no doubt. Right?
There's no doubt.
I think that tip in and of itself is amazing for people, like
the fact that you're saying you're going to have the farm, you have the name of the farm, you're clearly manifesting this.
Exactly.
I believe in, and you had to speak to someone, I think last week, that talked about that. I believe I love to read and listen. I listen to audiobooks a lot when I run. And Jen Sincero, do you guys know who she is?
No.
Yes, she wrote You're a Badass. Or
yeah.
Yep. I listened to that also.
Yeah.
She has a great You're a Badass in business book too. But she says if your dream it doesn't scare you, it's not big enough. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that was my North Star. It's this farm, and I'm going to have 7,000 pounds of crickets coming out of this farm, and I'm going to have enough people in this world who want to eat them. That's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as we wrap up this conversation today, one final question that we love to ask all of our guests is, what does the art of living well mean to you?
And I think my answer could change daily. But overall, if I think about that question, the one thing that stayed true in both my careers now, I always love the analogy of the three-legged stool. Have you heard that analogy? The three legs are, if one's weak, then everything's wobbly. And I believe in that. I think it's, my family, my work, and then my personal life. And keeping those three things in balance for me is an art. And when they're all working at the same, that's when I feel most in harmony. Yeah.
I love that.
I love that analogy too.
Yeah. So that's probably what it is. Keeping my little legs the same.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. This conversation has been so much fun.
Thank
Like,
you.
Absolutely.
you have great energy. We have no doubt you're going to be a success. We're
Thank
super
you.
excited about your product.
I can't wait.
We
to
can't wait
watch
for more
you
people. Can't wait for more people to
grow.
try.
Me too. I can't wait to be able to make more foods that are like noodles and things like that too, because
And you said you're going to be dropping recipes on your website weekly?
I am. The website launches, it's a pre-order launch because we need to see what, get ready. So while the pre-order site is up, the real beefy site is being developed. And in there, I'm going to be highlighting my farmers because I love them so much. I'm so grateful for what they've been providing. And then I'm also going to be highlighting recipes. And then I'm going to be asking others to join the tribe. And if they have recipes, like your banana recipe, I would love you to share it on our website, because I think the more we know how to work with our cricket, the more inclined we are to eat more cricket and get that quarter cup in us a day. And I don't think it should always just be in a smoothie. For those of us who want something savory, how can we have cricket? So yeah, that will be the thing. I'm really excited. I'm experimenting with a vegan black bean burger right now with cricket.
Oh, yum. Oh,
Yeah.
Let me know when that one comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never made a vegan black bean burger, so I take my time. I make sure I like it before I post it.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Tammy.
Thank you guys. It was really great. If you ever want to just, drink coffee and talk while I roll cookie balls, just give me a call.
I will.
Absolutely.
We don't live that far from you, so we may take you up on that.
Have a
Sounds
great
good.
day.
You too, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We are so excited that we created these fabulous new products for our listeners to support our podcast.
Yeah, we have 2 new recipe books, and one is curated for families. So there's lots of family-friendly recipes that both kids and adults will love. I've made these recipes for my family and everyone enjoys them. And then we have a second recipe book for those that want plant-based foods, and maybe you're already eating vegan, or maybe you're just trying to incorporate more vegetables and plants into your diet. They both have shopping lists, and they're made with ingredients that you can find at almost any grocery store. You don't need to go to like a specialty store to find these ingredients.
And we also created a Minneapolis Healthy Restaurant Guide, and we're really excited about it. We want to support our local restaurants, and it's really meant for you to find little gems in town that maybe you didn't know about. It gives you a chance to eat healthy out in a restaurant. The food is delicious at these places. They're sourcing local, sustainable foods, and we're just really excited to support our local healthy restaurant community.
And then the last product that we created is our favorite Art of Living Well podcast water bottle. It's 24 ounces. You may have heard us talk about this on stories because it serves both hot and cold beverages. There's a straw. You can use it or use it without the straw, and it's perfect for on the go, at home, wherever, and it'll help keep you hydrated. So we'd love for you to try our products and support our podcast. As our listeners, you can head on over to our website, which is www.theartoflivingwell.us/products, and order yours today. Maybe even give one as a gift.
And also, just to let you know, we priced all of these products pretty low so that everybody could enjoy them. $7 per guide, $20 for the water bottle, and we'd love your support. Thank you so much for listening to the Art of Living Well podcast. We are so grateful that you joined us today.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend or anyone else you think may benefit from this information. We'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast, leave us a review, and tag the Art of Living Well podcast on social media.
If you want more inspiration in between episodes, you can find us on social media at theartofliving_well on Instagram and Facebook, where we will share snippets from our daily lives and our journey to living well.